It feels like we're just drowning in data these days, right? We can track, measure, analyze pretty much anything. But what if that fire hose of information has a hidden bug, a little glitch that's making us totally blind to the bigger picture? Well, that's what we're going to get into. We're going to dive into the real trouble with big data and a sneaky cognitive trap called recency bias. Okay, so to really get our heads around this problem, we first have to talk about the sheer scale of it all. I mean, this isn't just about having more information to look at. No, it's way bigger than that. It's a fundamental shift in our entire information landscape. All right, take a look at this number, 90%. Any guesses what that represents? It's a pretty staggering statistic, and it reveals something truly shocking about the world we live in right now. Yep, 90% of all the data that exists in the entire world was created in just the last couple of years. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost everything we know as a civilization, at least digitally, is brand new. And guess what? This trend is only speeding up. Check this out. For the last 30 years, the world's data has increased tenfold every 2 years. That is an absolutely insane rate of expansion. It makes Moore's Law, the famous doubling of computer power, it makes that look like it's standing still. And this creates a huge and honestly a pretty dangerous imbalance in what we think we know. Okay, I know this is all a bit abstract, so let's make it a little more concrete. We're going to try a little thought experiment. Imagine all this data growth, but let's picture it as your personal photo album. So what if you wanted to tell the story of your life, right? From birth up to age 18. But what if the number of photos you have for each period of your life was completely wildly out of whack? What would that actually look like? This really puts it into perspective. For your first 2 years of life, you've got just 2 photos. Then, a few years later, between ages 6 and 8, it jumps to 2,000. By the time you're in your early teens, it's 200,000. And then, for your last 2 years of high school, a completely mind-boggling 200 million photos. I mean, that's more than 3 pictures for every single second of those 2 years. Insane, right? So how could your 2 little baby pictures possibly compete with that tidal wave of recent photos? The simple answer is, they can't. With this overwhelming flood of recent information, the distant past doesn't just shrink, it pretty much shrivels into insignificance. And the scary part? Our global digital record looks exactly like this skewed photo album. And this is where it gets tricky. This completely skewed data landscape leads us straight into a very common psychological trap. It's called recency bias. It's our brain's natural tendency to assume that whatever is happening right now is what's going to happen next. Why? Well, just because the recent past is so loud, so vivid, and so easily available in our mind. Now, this isn't just some quirky little tick our brains have. Oh no. When you combine our natural human bias with this totally lopsided data landscape, well, you get a recipe for some very real, and I mean very dangerous blind spots. And here's the crucial point. Relying on this mountain of recent data, it isn't a neutral act. As the source material puts it pretty bluntly, it's not just unhelpful, it's actively misleading. It can literally point us in the exact wrong direction. And we see this playing out in the real world all the time. Think about climate trends. A couple of unusually cold summers can make some people doubt the long-term warming trend. Or look at the financial markets. The 2009 crisis was called unthinkable by a lot of economists. Why? Because they were laser-focused on a very short, recent period of stability. Heck, even our search algorithms do this. They're biased towards freshness, which means older, maybe wiser, information gets buried. So, if just collecting more and more data is actually part of the problem, then what's the solution? Well, it's a bit counterintuitive. It's not about trying to remember more. It's about learning the art of forgetting. The answer isn't as simple as just saving every last scrap of old data. It's about practicing what the source material calls intelligent forgetting. Now, this doesn't mean just deleting things. It's about curation. It's about being really intentional and selective with what we choose to pay attention to. This table here really breaks down the 2 mindsets perfectly. On one side, you've got mere accumulation. That's kind of the old way of doing things. It's all about what's new and fresh, and it just assumes that more data automatically equals more truth. But on the other side, you have intelligent forgetting. This approach values the long view, the bigger picture. It understands that quality data is what leads to real knowledge, and it encourages a healthy dose of skepticism instead of that dangerous false confidence. This is the shift we really need to make. So, Okay, how do we actually do this? How do we practice this kind of curation? Well, step one, you have to actively let go of the overwhelming immediate past. That means fighting the urge to think the latest data point is automatically the most important one. Step two, keep your eyes on the long-term patterns, the larger continuities. That's where you spot the real trends. Step three, be choosy. Choose carefully what information truly matters and deserves to stick around. And finally, step four, you have to actively filter out the constantly growing noise of the present. And believe me, this isn't a passive thing. It's a real discipline. Which brings us to the final and maybe the most critical reason why this new way of thinking isn't just a nice idea. It's an absolute necessity. And here it is. The ultimate bottleneck in all of this isn't storage space or computer processing power. It's us. It's our brains. We have exponentially more information at our fingertips than ever before in history, but we don't have more attention. Our attention spans haven't scaled up to match. I mean, this simple chart says it all, doesn't it? The amount of available information is like a skyscraper that just keeps getting taller and taller. And our daily attention, well, that's a small fixed resource. It's not getting any bigger. And right there, in that huge gap between the two, that's where recency bias loves to live. And that's why the old strategy of just collecting everything, just piling it all up and hoping the truth will magically emerge is a total failure. Mere accumulation is just not the answer anymore. So that leaves us with one last kind of provocative thought to chew on. In this data-saturated world we're all living in, power isn't just about knowing more stuff. Maybe, just maybe, real wisdom now comes from the opposite skill, the skill of deciding what to ignore. Because in an age of big data, what you choose not to know might matter just as much as what you do.